You've hit play on the Screen Companion, a show about making your viewing time count.
We're doing high school movies. Heathers, and The Chocolate War from 1988, and Election from 1999. John, what is Election about?
A high school election, overachieving student becomes the thorn in the side of a high school teacher.
The student in this case goes by Tracy Flick. The teacher is Mr. McAllister, played by Reese Witherspoon and Matthew Broderick, respectively. What do you think is Mr. McAllister's main motivation against Tracy Flick?
He has unresolved issues with losing his best friend. His fellow friend teacher had an affair with the student Tracy, which is not cool on the teacher's part, and he had to move away, possibly work at a Walmart somewhere.
Putting price tags on cans.
Possibly, who could tell?
They show the teacher in question.
That's the scene I'm referencing. I was just trying to be coy about the situation.
Don't be coy about that scumbag.
Yeah, it's pretty scumbaggy. Pet her ass. Even though I think she was like 25 when this movie came out.
True, the actress. In the movie, I think she's... Is she a junior?
Yeah. She can drive. There's a scene where she can drive, so she's at least 16.
It's enough where she shouldn't be having sexual relations with teachers.
Correct.
One of the devices used in this movie is voiceover. Even though McAllister says he doesn't hold it against her, his friend losing his job at the school, I think a recurring theme is how every time there's a narrator, half the time they're lying to the audience or lying to themselves.
Yes, that is absolutely true.
Yeah, it gives me some insight into the characters, but I found some of it frustrating. It's such an unreliable narrator detail that it's almost like, well, what's the point of this? This guy's definitely lying to himself. I almost tune out some of the narration because of that. Did that ever happen with you?
I didn't tune it out because I found it amusing, but he is absolutely lying to himself.
As far as his animosity toward Tracy, when do you think McAllister crossed the line?
The obvious answer is when he crumples up to 2 votes so she doesn't become school president. We'll call it when he rigs an election. It definitely happened before that. When, even though she was lying and we as the audience knew she was lying, he refused to believe her when she said she didn't tear down the posters.
It's hard to know if he was trying to behave in his capacity as the overseer of the election, but I could buy it. He had made it personal by that point. For me, it was when he got involved with getting Paul onto the ballot.
Oh, yeah.
I could understand if it was done purely to help a student grow, help Paul see himself as something more than a quarterback after his leg injury.
No, that's definitely was not the case.
Yeah, that's not why he did it. Teachers have so much sway over what happens at school. I think anything that doesn't directly support education is a misuse of power. That's the only reason McAllister got involved. Since this movie is about student government, Tracy Flick doing all her extracurriculars, did you do any extracurriculars in high school?
No. I think I was in chess club for about a week.
That counts.
My buddy Jeff was also in it, and I knew his brain to where I don't think he ever beat me in chess. I was the only one he wanted to play. At the end of the week, it's just like, okay, everybody else in here is way better at chess than me, except Jeff. So I think we're done here, Jeff. And he's just like, okay, we're done here.
I'm not trying to play into any stereotypes, but even in your small town, did you have any Asians in that chess club?
No, actually. We did, we had Asians, which is, this is going to sound terrible, because we only had like 2 Asians, I think, in the whole school. Maybe 3.
Oh, was there a Toyota plant nearby?
Ha ha. I'm letting you run that one. They were, their parents were just immigrants. So they came in, they opened up the best Chinese restaurant I've ever eaten at. Letting the world know, even though I live in San Francisco, these guys have the best Chinese restaurant in the world.
Wait a second. This place is in upstate New York?
Yeah.
That's gotta be like blasphemy within chef circles. As a caterer, are you allowed to make that claim?
I am. Alright, as someone who's been to Beijing, I'm definitely throwing that claim out there.
Holy crap, I didn't know you've been to Beijing.
I'm a world traveler, my friend. I'm still tired from my Japan trip.
So the 1 week you spent in chess club, was that enough to get you into the yearbook photo?
Yeah, I think so.
You don't remember?
I might have been in Spanish club too, just because I was in Spanish class. That was an awful... I don't know. My mom had 4 kids, I was the youngest, and she just ran out of steam for extracurricular activities. She didn't push me into anything. Like, she pushed my oldest brother into everything. My second oldest brother was just... I don't know. He wasn't having any of it. My sister was in a couple sports, and then she just ran out. She's like, yeah, whatever.
I was a freshman senator, and then sophomore president. I ran twice, I won twice.
Ooh.
I quit halfway through both terms. I quit the student senate because I thought the meetings were pointless role-playing. I didn't see any useful changes based on our discussions. I was more like Tammy in the movie.
You come back the second time and run on the Don't Vote for Anyone platform?
Not quite. Because, like an idiot, I figured becoming president would affect greater change. It didn't.
Oh, really? Our high school president ran unopposed every year for all of high school.
Was he a popular dude?
Yeah, I suppose so. Small town, USA, anyone willing to run for the job. So like, sure. But he was pretty popular. Or he wasn't, and I don't know anything. I don't remember anything proper from high school.
I thought maybe it was like in the movie when the guy for vice president is a guy in a wheelchair and nobody's going to run against him.
No. Maybe.
What grade would you give the authenticity of the teen characters and school life in this movie?
I'm going to give it a B+. I think Tammy Flick was a combination of a couple other people that you actually would see. I don't think the person editing the yearbook is probably not popular enough to be class president. She was doing, like, student newscaster and all that other stuff. That's what, AV Club? Those are 3 different humans.
Well, that depends on the makeup of your school. In my school, we had just over 400 kids in my class, and each election there was at least a dozen people that ran. So probably not in my school, but at your school where the same guy goes unopposed all 4 years, I could see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
Those assembly scenes took me back in time.
Yeah, I remember going to the gym and someone saying something, and I know half the school didn't give a crap.
I feel like how cheesy it is in the movie really hits home.
Yes, yes.
And those awful speeches for student government. Mine wasn't awful. I say this based on people telling me it wasn't awful, but I do remember how other people handled their speeches. Just like some of the kids in the movie. Almost like they're reading off cue cards and there's no life to what they're saying.
The quarterback reading, he's supposed to be this charismatic leader, and as soon as he pulls out his piece of paper, he's no good in front of that crowd.
I remember I was put on the spot to sing the school song in my capacity as class president. And a handicapped girl either got her hands on a mic or maybe she joined in on my mic, but she just got up and started singing with me.
It became a Sweet Caroline karaoke situation.
Well, no one was going to tell her no, and it was a total fiasco. I don't have a singing voice. I could have done better if I got any prior notice. I ate it for a solid 30 seconds to a minute in front of 1,600 kids.
That warms my heart. It really warms my heart.
I had such a great speech. I swear, some kids might have even stood up and applauded for me. Maybe it's just the movie in my mind. The universe's scales balanced out by giving me such a great time doing the speeches, and then being in front of all those kids to do a song I didn't even know by heart. I had to read it off of a prompter. It was awful.
Became karaoke at that point.
Oh, dude, I could have done a better Don't Stop Believing.
Probably any song than your school song. Does every school have a song? I don't even remember if my school had a song.
I don't know if your school could afford it.
Probably not. Every year, marching band was just the Mission Impossible theme.
Ooh, I like it. Your school's cool.
Totally.
Do you think the characters in Election, adults and students, do you think they're closer to reality or farce?
I'm going to say they're closer to reality, especially of these three movies. But in general, I thought they did a pretty good job. Because all this is kind of BS, right? But all these characters just take it so seriously.
That's what makes it so great.
Mm-hmm.
The Screen Companion is available on multiple platforms, including Podbean, Amazon Music Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. Tell us your review, vote for what we should cover next, or let certain guests know they're your favorite via thescreencompanion@gmail.com or by posting on the Screen Companion group on Facebook. Thanks to everyone in the States and abroad for listening. Further support the host by purchasing his novel, Traversal, The Weight of Worlds, available in both digital and print formats on Amazon.com. Similar to what you mentioned earlier about Tracy Flick being almost an amalgam of a bunch of different kids in school, I think all the characters feel like they're extracted from real life, but that many oddballs together, what makes it so silly. And I think that's something that pops up in Heathers, too. These over-the-top archetypes.
Yeah.
Are there high-strung overachievers like Tracy? No doubt. I remember a few of them. But I think the average teen is level-headed. Not as obvious as the jock represented by Paul, or his lesbian sister Tammy that is so gay she takes the fall for an incident at school so her parents will send her to an all-girls school.
That scene, to me, is an example of my biggest problem with the movie.
How about a favorite scene or performance?
I didn't think I was going to like Matthew Broderick in this as much as I did. I thought everyone was great. Chris Klein, the jock, that's what he does best, was being that clueless, happy guy. And I'm definitely going to give a shout-out to the greatest Chekhov's gun I think I've ever seen in a movie with the custodian in the beginning.
I don't know how to feel about that.
Oh, really?
Immediately when it happens, I do have that great satisfaction. But one, they undercut it by flashing back. If you don't get it, then you're stupid, and you shouldn't be allowed to get it.
Yeah.
It's like, you guys were so smart with doing that foreshadowing. Don't cheapen it by giving us a flashback in case people weren't paying attention. But then the second thing I run into, so the janitor finds those ballots that McAllister crumpled up that were votes for Tracy in a super tight election. So do you think that janitor happened to spot it that day? I know there wasn't much trash in that can. That's hard for me to swallow.
As a janitor, he's going to go through everyone's garbage. He's going to see it at the end of the day, unless he's going through the garbage later, which suggests a backstory to this guy that we don't know. Maybe we can make one up. He's really into garbage, or he's like a former CIA operative just used to that kind of espionage.
The way I made it make sense for me, because at the beginning of the movie they show McAllister slighting the janitor unintentionally.
Because he's trying to clean out the fridge.
I want to imagine that after that moment, the janitor is so anal that from that moment on, every time he checked McAllister's trash, he was looking for something. So like a couple months go by, and finally he finds his smoking gun.
In my head, he's Steve Buscemi from Billy Madison. He's doing it while listening to weird music and putting on lipstick.
Oh, yeah, when he's cleaning the building and nobody's in the halls.
Yeah.
He tucks his wee-wee back and does the pee-pee dance.
He's listening to Wild Horses.
Yep, by Q Lazarus.
Yes, exactly.
Would you do me? I do me. I do me hard.
Oh, that's the TV edit.
Well, I know they use the F word, but I would just edit that out anyway, so...
That's fair.
I gotta find some way to get past it.
That's fair.
My favorite moment is the scene where McAllister convinces Paul to run for council president. The teacher doesn't want Flick to be the sole candidate, so he illustrates the idea of having choices by drawing a line of circles on the chalkboard. He calls these apples. Then he starts a new row by making an identical circle and calls that an orange. McAllister says, "What do you want, an apple or an orange? That's democracy."
This movie's too topical.
I mean, did you notice that all the circles were the same?
Yes, I immediately thought of the Futurama episode where the two clones were running against each other. Written by Al Gore's daughter as a joke on the Bush-Gore 2000 run.
And the director, Alexander Payne, he's known for trying to put in stuff into his scenes. I saw you, Payne. I saw you in that moment.
The punchline of the scene was the quarterback not getting any of it and just saying, "I also like bananas." A couple scenes later, there's a fruit basket where it's apples, oranges, and bananas.
And which fruit does he pick?
I believe he took the apple, right?
I thought he took the banana.
He might have taken the banana, who was, I think, represented by his sister in the race.
Oh, I didn't put that together. I don't think that was the intention.
I might have overthought all of it, the whole movie, because I enjoyed it.
There are subtle clues in there. I don't think McAllister or Paul were referencing Tammy in that scene. Maybe that was Payne commenting on later in the movie when she enters the race. She's the third option. She's the banana, which is ironic because of her sexual preference.
Yes.
Damn, you found another layer to this.
Oh, yes, I did.
What's your biggest criticism for Election?
You brought it up earlier with the flashback to the custodian, and I mentioned the scene where the Meltzer girl there giggles. Tammy, where she giggles when he's like, "You're going to an all-girls school." There's no trust in the audience. They don't let it simmer. There's an immediate, "We gotta tell you what's going on." Matthew Broderick was drinking a Pepsi in a scene immediately after Tracy said that Coke was the best soft drink in the world because they're the only choice or whatever. He was watching porn, drinking the Pepsi. Instead of letting the audience being like, "Hey, wait a minute," they had the voiceover of Tracy just repeating the whole Coke thing. The movie didn't trust the audience, was my biggest critique.
Off of that, what do you think of the movie's use of narrators?
I still liked it. It worked. I don't know if the movie would be as good without a narrator.
I felt like there were too many narrators.
I think it fit the tone because you never forgot there was going to be a voiceover at any point. Where a lot of narrated movies, the narrator disappears for the whole second act, so when he comes back for the third act, it's jarring.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
With the exception of Fight Club.
I appreciate that they don't vilify any of the leads, but the flip side to that is nobody comes off as someone I want to root for.
No. Matthew Broderick, right? He's established as the protagonist almost. But, he's cheating on his wife, which is weird. That just means he's an asshole, right? Because he's still getting laid regularly. He's getting laid more often than a lot of married guys.
I hadn't considered that, you're right.
Having seen other couples cheat, the reason being the sex life is dead. He's just going for it, and he's still cheating? That's kind of shitty.
But to be fair, sex with his actual wife was pretty clinical because they wanted to have kids so badly.
Yeah, that is clinical.
I'm not defending him, though. He's evil.
My wife was watching that scene, and she was critiquing the wife in that scene. She's like, who talks like that? That's weird. Because she kept saying, fill me up or whatever. And I was just like, pretty sure I've heard that in a million porn.
Yeah, it wasn't sexy in the movie.
Mm-mm. Tracy technically didn't do anything wrong to begin with. She was just annoying. But, eventually we as the audience knew that she started doing shady things. Matthew Broderick didn't know. He was still going after her. Chris Klein was a clueless idiot the whole time. He's lucking into everything. He even has that Dear God speech later in the movie where he just says his life is perfect, and he's still like, I want to luck into being the president.
I've heard I have a larger than normal penis. I'm thankful for that.
Which he's probably only heard from his sister's ex-girlfriend.
Dear Lord Jesus, I do not often speak with you and ask for things, but now I really must insist that you help me win the election tomorrow, because I deserve it and Paul Metzler doesn't, as you well know. Now I'm asking that you go that one last mile and make sure to put me in office where I belong, so that I may carry out your will on earth as it is in heaven. Amen.
Dear God, thank you for all your blessings. You've given me so many things like good health, nice parents, a nice truck, and what I'm told is a large penis, and I'm very grateful. Also, I'm nervous about the election tomorrow, and I guess I want to win it all, but I know that's totally up to you. Forgive me for my sins, whatever they may be. Amen.
Tracy would have ended up being my horse in this race of life. But because of her narration, do you think she's a psychopath?
She's definitely a psychopath. She is disturbingly full of herself for every situation. You look at her mother, like the first time things go wrong for her in the movie, her mother's response is to give her a pill.
Well, it was the 90s.
True. Good old 90s.
I didn't hear about it until later. Studies about the use of drugs and therapy for kids. But I remember back then, in the late 90s, early 2000s, I was seeing more kids take drugs. Prescribed drugs.
Oh, yeah. That's the whole thing, right? Like
Ritalin.
Ritalin. Oh, I remember Ritalin. I never took it, because I was a well-behaved child. But
There's enough story to make up for the morally gray cast. However, I was struggling on the rewatch about an hour in thinking, I don't want anybody to succeed.
Well, that doesn't help, because I think everybody but Broderick, I think everybody succeeds, depending on how you look at it.
That's true. They all get a semblance of a happy ending. At least, according to each character, they get what they want by the very end.
Matthew Broderick stated earlier in the movie how much he hated his life, and he gets out of that. Tracy was probably on her way to becoming president, and I think quarterback Paul was going to be happy no matter what.
I could see him just taking over for his dad.
He'd totally be cool with that.
It was a cement company?
Cement company, where he held his graduation party, or whatever, end of the year party.
I totally believe that. That sounds like something a kid would do.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I also believe that I would not have been invited to that party.
Oh, no, you would not have been invited. He doesn't know it yet because there's only white people in this school, but he's racist.
Was the ending satisfying for you?
I'm going to say it was satisfying, even if Tracy rightfully got the best ending.
Neither Flick nor McAllister found ultimate victory or ultimate defeat. And I think if either of them was the victor, it might put a spin on the characters and how they lived their lives and their morality. And I didn't get that preachy feeling from the movie at all, did you?
No, I didn't get that preachy feeling. And I would add that, especially for, Tracy and Paul, they're high school students. Unless they accidentally commit a murder or something, this is nowhere near the rest of their lives. They still have 75% of their lives left after graduating high school?
Do you like to imagine, like we often do on this show, something where McAllister is really just Ferris Bueller?
So, I didn't think about it, but like I said, I was watching it with my wife earlier, and she kept bringing up Ferris Bueller. I don't want to say the main conversation because it's going to make her look weird. or a comic genius, so maybe I will say it. She kept calling up. She's like, hey, is that guy from Ferris Bueller?
Whenever trying to match disparate movies together and call one a sequel to the other, I never feel like we need to justify why this guy has a different name. Just forgive that. Chalk it up to real life that there's no way, even if they intended this to be an unofficial sequel, you can't call them the same name. You got rights issues, all that crap.
Yeah.
But the fact that he narrates part of the movie, he acts a little bit like a jerk, and I always thought Ferris Bueller was a punk.
Oh, Ferris Bueller is a total punk.
I like the idea with how much Ferris was dumping on the faculty in that movie, that he would ultimately end up becoming a teacher.
I have a lot of friends who were troubled children in high school who became teachers.
People do a lot of growing, changing. Makes sense. I get it.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're not the same people we were in high school.
Oh, man, yeah. Especially I'm 40. If I was still the same person I was in high school, there's no point to go on.
But we are going to go on to our second film, Heathers. Finds popular girl Veronica breaking ranks with the top clique in school, the eponymous Heathers. She takes a dark journey of murderous rebellion spurred on by new kid bad boy JD. As preps and jocks drop like flies, incorrectly attributed to a spate of teen suicides, Veronica's conscience bubbles to the surface, and she'll have to stop JD's master plan of ending everyone at school. Does the relationship between Winona Ryder's Veronica and Christian Slater's JD work for you?
Yes, just because that feels like if you like someone, it takes too long to figure out that they're crazy, even though it's obvious in a lot of places.
With Christian Slater's impression of Jack Nicholson throughout the movie, their first meet cute is him staring at her from across the cafeteria. He already looks crazy.
The initial look of, hey, look at this creepy kid. And this was definitely before Columbine. I think it was before the Oklahoma City bombings.
Veronica feels like she starts the movie already questioning her popularity. I want more scenes where she's all in with the Heathers before she breaks away from them.
Yeah, there's a whole movie right there. She's done something terrible to get in with the Heathers. She's gone through the arc, and now we're at the end of that arc. That's where she starts. That seems like a weird place to start. This is like a sequel to a movie that doesn't exist.
I buy that she'd be attracted to JD only because I don't buy that she's got the mentality of a popular girl.
She definitely starts as the goth kid.
Let's see her be mean to other kids at the beginning. Have her be totally vapid. Like you were saying about being a sequel, she comes off as a slightly older Lydia from Beetlejuice. Her character arc isn't that pronounced.
I like that analogy just because of the preacher for every funeral.
I knew you would notice that.
That's the first thing. I started singing the song. I was singing the song to my wife. She's like, what the f*** are you talking about?
Well, to be fair to her, that does sound crazy.
Yeah. Oh, there's just a murder, and now there's a funeral scene, and my husband is singing Daylight Come, You Gotta Go Home.
Throw a shout out. Do you remember the actor's name?
I'm looking at it on screen, but I will admit that I did not remember his name.
Glenn Shaddix.
Yes.
What grade would you give the authenticity of the teen characters and school life in Heathers?
I'm going to give this a B-.
Ooh, okay.
Because it definitely is... This is a very romanticized version of how high school cliques worked back in our day. But, like, no one actually went on murder-suicide sprees.
I'm happy to say I don't recall anybody doing that at my high school, and we had a lot of kids.
Yeah, it sounds like you had more kids in your high school than me.
Oh, definitely. Like I said, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,600.
Dang, I think that's the population of my hometown.
Did I not get the memo in high school that I was supposed to fawn over the supposed popular kids?
See, that's the big thing. Every high school, no one fawned over the popular kids. I don't even know who the popular kids were in my high school. I know there was people with money, and then there was me wandering around in my brother's t-shirt, hoping the only person who noticed was the English teacher who hated him.
Wait, explain that? So you were wearing your brother's clothes.
Just hand-me-downs in general, and it was a jab at my brother being terrible at English, and the teacher hated him for it.
Oh.
But we all had dyslexia. There was a family trait of dyslexia.
So what you're saying is you were really popular in school.
I mean, everybody knew everybody else. It's a small town. So a lot of, popularity probably didn't play into any of it.
I remember individually we'd covet an athlete's success or wishing we had someone's girlfriend, but in group terms, I don't remember placing the cool kids above me in the pecking order, or seeing most kids look on them with reverence. I'm so glad my high school wasn't like that, as depicted in this movie. That would have sucked.
Are high schools actually like that? Are there cliques like that in high school? Or is that something invented by movies?
Based on my experience, it's oversimplified for movies. It makes it more dramatic if it's like Game of Thrones and everybody's in their little group, cutthroat.
Exactly. I think someone's popular because everybody likes them.
Speaking of liking people, do you think Veronica's hatred for the Heathers is justified?
The way they present it in the movie, absolutely. The first scene, which may or may not be real, is what? Her being buried up to her neck. Obviously it's fake, because there's no big hole in the backyard after that. But she's getting hit in the face with a croquet ball.
Well, yeah, that shows what she's feeling. It came off like it was a case of, I don't like how things run at school, so therefore everyone else is in the wrong. If she doesn't like the Heathers, then stop hanging out with them and move on. Get a new group of friends.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what she did, though, right? That was
At the end...
Her first attempt at a new friend was instantly the worst idea ever. With JD.
But wasn't that more of a love interest?
Yeah.
His name was JD. She just wanted the D.
Let's ride that D.
What was your favorite scene or performance?
I don't want to say Winona Ryder. And I don't know why I don't want to say Winona Ryder, but I'm gonna say Winona Ryder.
You can. She was a pixie goddess back then.
She was really good in that movie, actually. I don't think I ever recall hating her at any point in her career. I know things, according to Hollywood, didn't go her way, but she's had a successful career. And I've liked her, I think, in everything. And I thought she was great in this.
I always liked her roles early on, because she's always the outcast. In real life, she said she got bullied a lot in school. People said she had boyish looks. The only criticism I would have in her earlier stuff is just how much of it almost feels like the same character, but in different situations.
That's Hollywood, baby. Typecasting, I guess.
I laughed when JD wants to plant a bottle of mineral water at a supposed murder-suicide between boyfriends.
These are Ichluga bullets. My grandfather snared a shitload of them back in WW2. They're like tranquilizers, only they break the surface of the skin enough to cause a little blood but no real damage.
So it looks like the person's been shot and killed, and really they're just lying there unconscious and bleeding?
See, we shoot curtain ram, make it look like they shot each other, and by the time they regain consciousness, they'll be the laughing stock of the whole school. Now, the note's the punchline. How'd that turn out?
Okay. Ram and I died the day we realized we could never reveal our forbidden love to an uncaring and ununderstanding world. The joy we shared in each other's arms was greater than any touchdown, yet we were forced to live the lie of sexist, beer-guzzling jock assholes.
That's perfect. Let's take a look at some of the homosexual artifacts I dug up laying at the scene. All right. Got an issue with Stud Puppy.
Great.
A candy dish. Joan Crawford postcard. Good. Let's see. Some mascara. Now here's the one perfecto thing I picked up. Mineral water.
Oh, come on. A lot of people drink mineral water. It's come a long way.
Yeah, but this is Ohio. I mean, if you don't have a brewski in your hand, you might as well be wearing a dress.
That's true. My wife lived in Ohio for a while, and she got upset at the joke. She got upset at Ohio. She's just like, they would, and she like throwing her hands up.
I know somebody from Ohio. She doesn't seem to have any trouble denigrating that state.
They have the highest percentage of population who has literally left the planet. We went there to visit family once for her, and we stayed at this hotel, and the clerk at the hotel was this young kid. And instead of saying, hello, how can I help you, or anything like that, he just came out and was like, what are you doing in Ohio?
I thought you were going to say, he said, take me with you.
Yeah, we're from California. He's just like, go back, this place is awful.
I don't eat a lot, I could fit in your trunk.
I don't make noise.
But with that mineral water, later on, when the cops find the dead jocks and they're looking for clues, one of them says, my God, suicide, why? And the other cop shows off the mineral water and says, does this answer your question?
It was less of a anti-gay message. It was more of a actually making fun of gay people.
A lot like Election. I don't really root for anybody in this movie. Definitely those cops aren't supposed to be your favorite characters.
We first see them smoking weed. The only reason they're close to the scene is because they're smoking weed in their car.
So you're not supposed to take these guys seriously.
You're not supposed to take them seriously. The mineral water joke was pretty funny. I'm gonna get that.
But at least, if this was Election, I feel like we would cut to Veronica and JD noticing the cops with the mineral water, and then JD would say something like, see, I told you, just to bring it back.
There'd be an explanation opposed to trusting the audience.
It's pretty funny when I mentioned recording this episode to my dad and telling him about the mineral water joke. He said, you know, I do remember people back in my day used to think mineral water was gay.
Was it gay? Because there's definitely a problem with mineral water. There's no problem with being gay. So
I'm not using it as a pejorative. What my dad was saying was, if he saw a guy in the 70s drinking mineral water, he would just assume what his sexual preference might be.
And I doubt my one friend who drinks mineral water is going to listen to this, but I'm saying people who drink mineral water are weirdos.
When's the last time you had mineral water?
I don't like it. It tastes like static, like when your TV doesn't work. That's what it tastes like. It's just off. I grew up on a farm. It's not water. It doesn't come out of the ground like that.
What's your biggest criticism for Heathers?
It was probably supposed to be a serious movie, and I couldn't help but think this was like a slapstick comedy most of the time.
That's the way I took it.
What's the official genre on this movie?
I don't know what the official... Can anybody put an official genre? It's a satire.
It felt too slapstick for... well, maybe not. Maybe I just don't know what I'm talking about. Sounds like my biggest criticism is I didn't get it soon enough.
This wasn't a first watch for you.
No, it wasn't. Early 90s, maybe late 90s. This is a weird time frame. Pretty sure I watched it during the Attitude Era of WWE, which was the late 90s.
Yeah. I love how your time references always have to do with wrestling.
Because I do the Superstars, the New Age, the Attitude.
Now, did that happen before or after Stone Cold retired?
Yeah, was that pre or post Mick Foley getting thrown off Hell in the Cell?
I don't think Veronica should have survived the ending.
I'll agree with that.
Because she was, at the very least, an accessory to multiple murders, but the final shot has this saccharine tone to it that goes against the cynical, nihilistic tone of the rest of the flick.
It was a little too upbeat and Bugs Bunny bomb in the face.
Yeah, that was so silly.
And she was completely unfazed by it. She's still covered in the soot or whatever. All the stairs behind her are smoking, and something should have flew through her eye. Like a piece of Christian Slater, something should have went through her eye and made her brain dead.
Because she's out on the steps of the school. He's out there. He feels like he's been defeated. He's got the bomb strapped to him. In my version, because she's a piece of crap, she walks up to him and hugs him, and then they blow up together.
That's a much better ending.
And not because she loves him, but because she sees that she's gone too far. She killed multiple people.
She knew. She was looking at the body of one of the totally not gay football players and still shot the other guy when he came back.
I don't believe the movie actually wants the audience to take the plot seriously. So this is one instance where I would have been fine with the anti-hero getting got in the last reel. I wanted her to get some comeuppance, and I don't see any clue that she ever will, do you?
No. She walked up to the poor girl who tried to kill herself, said, hey, we're going to hang out. I'm not going to tell anybody about all the other bombs that are still in the gymnasium. And she's probably going to kill that girl. She's going to kill that girl. She's going to wear her face. She's going to make a skin suit out of that girl.
Well, wait a second. The movie takes place in Ohio?
Yeah.
And Silence of the Lambs, doesn't James Gumb live in Ohio?
Yeah.
We found another movie connection.
All right, we're the best.
I gotta mention this about Heathers. The way they use black in the movie, especially Christian Slater's hair dyed black, and with all the squinting he does, I want to believe his character in the movie is supposed to be half Japanese.
I'm just going to remove myself from that conversation entirely, sir.
What, there's nothing wrong with that. Freeze frame some of his performance.
No, I'm probably never going to watch this movie again.
Then just take my word for it.
They insinuate that his mom committed suicide more heavily than they probably should have insinuated that his dad killed his mom. But that could be just like a weird Harry Carey moment, I guess.
There you go. She felt honor-bound because she was part Japanese.
Yeah. Okay. This is all you. This is all you.
I know, I keep laying down some track for you. You don't go for it one bit.
I just got back from Japan. I ain't getting on those tracks specifically.
Before we move on to our final movie of the night, let me ask you, who were you back in high school? What social strata did you belong to?
Probably nerds. Nerds freaks, I guess. I definitely talked about Dragon Ball Z too much.
Oh my god, you were an anime early adopter?
Anyone who was 40 years old at the time of this recording, it was on before school. 6 a.m. It was Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon.
I remember.
You had a choice. Which one do I shower during? And I showered during Pokemon and watched Dragon Ball Z. And I think my friends chose to just not shower. So I was always lost in the Pokemon conversation.
So they really fit well into that nerd stereotype, huh?
Yeah, I really did. No hygiene. If I wasn't part of a super poor family, or just a stingy mom, I could have got a Game Boy and had Pokemon. That was probably all I needed to keep up in that conversation, because every episode is just Team Rocket is blasting off again, right?
I remember thinking that even back then. I was like in 5th grade going, Jesus, it's the same thing every episode.
Every time I got out of the shower, I'd come back and be like, Team Rocket blasting off. All right, Dragon Ball Z, let's go. He's powering up again. This is totally different from being the same thing every episode.
I only turned it on to Pokemon because Beast Wars just ended, and I just wanted something on TV. Otherwise, I wouldn't have put that crap on.
Optimus Primal. Bajam.
Oh, I was so disheartened by that recent Transformers movie.
I didn't even watch it.
Neither did I, but it looked like crap.
It just feels like a weird obligation of, like, you gotta watch these Transformers movies. Not, I want to. It's, you have to.
Well, Since you watch that many Transformers movies, that's a hell of your own making.
It really is.
I think I was part of the geek crowd, which did include some athletic guys. Sure, every teen has his tastes and steers clear of some types of kids, but for the most part, I don't recall trying to exclude folks that wanted to powwow.
Yeah.
Since then, though, have you had any revelations about your high school experience when you look at it in hindsight?
Just one.
That's all I need.
I was bullied by a kid for a very short amount of time. And it was because I ratted him out to a teacher for something he did that was harmless. In hindsight, it was completely harmless. And in longer hindsight, thankfully this didn't affect the kid I ratted out. Thank God. But in longer hindsight, it turned out the teacher was a pedophile.
Okay, but how does that connect to what happened?
It just made me think, it was like, I totally ratted that kid out when I shouldn't have. The teacher I ratted him out to, who got him in trouble, did turn out to be a creeper who would stand in the bathroom and expose himself to children.
Oh my god.
Yep. I couldn't have been more in the wrong.
What grade was this?
This was like 8th grade, 9th grade.
Oh boy. Snitches get stitches, man. What possessed you to rat on somebody?
It was little kid flirting. He was flirting with this girl. He took her project folder and just put it somewhere where she was eventually going to find it. And I was just like, the folder's here. It was Jimmy. Yeah. That was my mom coming out of, rat those bastards out.
You were a nerd.
Oh, God, yeah. Especially in hindsight. I hope that didn't affect the kid. I felt bad. I felt bad every day. Like, the bullying was just like, I fucking deserve this. That guy's a pedophile. And he didn't even do it that long. It was just like a week.
Wow, and yet that is stuck in your mind this whole time.
Because I was 100% wrong.
Oh, yeah. I know what you mean. When you know you were 100% wrong, whether it's high school or whatever, for some reason those just stick with you, don't they?
Oh, yeah. It's my biggest failure.
I talked to one guy from high school a few years ago, and he mentioned I came off as aloof because I turned down opportunities to hang out. I was a fat kid, so if it wasn't a house party or going to the movies, it would be like a snowman accepting an invitation to the desert. So it's funny to think that my insecurity came off as pretentiousness. My saving grace, though, I had a wicked tongue, but I wasn't a bully in high school. I didn't strike unless attacked first.
That is so northeast of you, to call it a wicked tongue. Got a bad wicked tongue over here.
Hey, I used it properly.
You did use it properly. I'm not saying the people who use the word wicked have ever used it improperly.
I remember when I moved out to California for school, and I swear there were kids not from the West Coast that all of a sudden said, "That's the bomb. This is the bomb." It's like, stop it. Stop trying to ingratiate yourself with the locals.
It gets you. I've said the word hella sarcastically a lot. I've never said it realistically, only because I've been able to catch myself right before I've said it genuinely.
Good, it shows we share East Coast DNA.
We gotta be us.
So, the last movie of the day, The Chocolate War, where 15-year-old Jerry takes a stand against conformity when he refuses to sell chocolates for his Catholic school. The de facto headmaster, Brother Leon, conspires with the not-so-secret society of students called The Vigil to teach Jerry a lesson about the cost of individuality. John, why do you think Jerry doesn't sell the chocolates?
He was looking to be a dick.
Really?
He needed something. His mom had died, and he was getting nothing from his dad. That is such a lash-out situation. This is the most polite lash-out he can be.
I half agree with you. I would frame it differently. I think the key motivator stems from an early scene with his dad, as you mentioned, where the latter comes off as numb related to Jerry's mother's death within the last year. And Jerry confronts his father with, don't you ever have really good days or really bad? Rebelling against the school and the vigils is the mental equivalent of cutting himself to feel something and not descend into a deeper depression like his old man. But I don't think he was purposely trying to be an asshole. Because there are opportunities later in the movie where he could be vindictive and he's not.
But he still ended up willingly punching Archie.
Well, that was a whole contrived situation. The power was taken away from him at a certain point. But yeah, he gave that power up.
Yeah, he willingly gave that power up to hurt somebody.
So what grade would you give The Chocolate War for its portrayal of teen characters in school life?
This is a private school that requires private funding with a secret society. I don't know anything about any of that bullshit.
There must be some secret societies. We don't know about them because they're secret, John.
There is no secret society in Bath, New York. We gotta infiltrate this farmer society.
See, there you go. You guys weren't important enough.
No, we were not. I don't care if you're trying to insult me. We were not.
There's no secret society back home called the Cornhuskers.
That's a football team.
Am I wrong? Were there no cafeteria scenes in this movie?
Not a single one. Jerry had to take a public bus to and from school, and he wasn't even the only student on it.
True, but chalk that up to the school not having huge funds.
Yeah, that's true. They have to sell chocolate to get their funds without raising tuition. The devil John Glover said multiple times that none of the parents were actually wealthy.
John, I love your references, but when I edit these things, I always think, unless somebody gets his reference, this is only going to confuse them.
Ah!
John Glover, who plays Brother Leon and later played the devil in a show called Brimstone.
That is my favorite single rendition of the devil ever.
I think it's a tragedy that show's never been released on DVD or Blu-ray.
How? Is that... I'm not going to say why or how I have access to the whole season, but... You're correct. It is a travesty that has never been released. That is my favorite rendition of the devil. It was the perfect week-to-week cop procedural that you could still have an overarching story to.
There were only 13 episodes. That was a tight story. And the show had Lori Petty post-Tank Girl in a supporting role. Need I say more? Come on. Put it on disc, people.
Come on, America!
Well, who do you think is the main villain of the story? Brother Leon or Archie, the master schemer for the Vigils?
I gotta say Archie only because Brother Leon never gets his quote-unquote comeuppance. Ends up untouched. They make you think Archie's the problem, and then he gets his comeuppance, even if it is via Adam Baldwin. He's the one defeated in the end, which makes him the antagonist, right?
If you want the story to have a happy ending, sure.
Ooh.
You haven't answered my question, Bailey.
I don't cheat, Brother Leon.
Then how do you account for all those A's, Bailey?
I don't know.
Are you perfect? All those A's, that implies perfection. Is that it, Bailey? Only God is perfect. Do you compare yourself to God? If God is perfect and you are perfect, Bailey, doesn't that suggest something to you, Bailey? The other alternative is that, of course, you're not perfect. And of course you're not. I know you wouldn't be so blasphemous as to compare yourself to God. Would you, Bailey?
No, Brother Leon.
Which leaves us with only one conclusion. You cheat.
So if Brother Leon truly is the antagonist, that makes him the establishment that never gets defeated. It's just the underclass fighting amongst themselves, or the controlling class leaves untouched.
But I'm just playing John Glover's advocate here because I agree with you. Leon, you can chalk him up to an administrative blowhard, but Archie is directly responsible for hazing kids, threats of physical harm, setting up that twisted boxing match between students. Leon wants to be head of the school, but for Archie, if all goes well, he gets to be a top player at a private school. It doesn't appeal to me as being a valid reason for doing any of it, whereas at least Brother Leon, that's more tangible. He's the headmaster if everything goes well.
Brother Leon is sat for the rest of his life. The best Archie can hope for is, 2 years of superiority?
King Pissant.
I'm top of this mountain, but I do have to leave this mountain in a year.
But what is up with Archie? Who do you think he is?
They never explore his back life. He's got to be, I want to call him the Nelson Muntz of this school. Simpsons reference. The ha-ha.
But Archie he's a very smart guy. I don't quite see it.
Everyone likes to think they're that in high school. Every quote-unquote smart kid likes to think they're Archie in high school. But they never are. He's getting as far as the teachers will allow him.
There's that. I think also Archie looks like and acts like somebody that the kids would make fun of, if not for the fact that he put himself into a pretty high position within that secret society. So I think that's who he is. He's a nerd who knows he's a nerd, and he has to protect himself by being one of the oppressors.
His trauma is to become who traumatized him.
Do you think this movie is grounded enough?
I'm going to say no. A lot of private schools are places for rich kids, and they just keep saying that none of the teachers are rich. So that alone, this is my poor showing, but that alone feels like that they don't know what private school's about.
But a lot of that backstory is given by Brother Leon, and I wonder if he was embellishing some of the backstory to get Archie and the Vigils onto his team.
Ooh, that's a good point, because Brother Leon
is a dickhead.
He's a dickhead. This was his whole play. This is a play for him. He's doubling the price of stuff he bought illegally with school funds because the headmaster's out, and so he's trying to make a play for that position.
And it's all predicated on a fundraiser selling chocolates, and I love how serious the movie gets.
It's so serious.
Yeah, there's a little spot in my mind every time somebody gives a serious look or threatens somebody, I'll say under my breath, because of chocolates.
It's too serious, because it almost felt like my least favorite of the three. And that just might be because I watched it first, and I watched them all at once.
A lot of real-world conflict happens over the most mundane things. I remember we had fundraisers all throughout my early school career. I think my dad got involved when I told them I didn't want to participate in the fundraiser.
Oh.
So I basically was Jerry.
Remember in Scouts, the bowl-a-thon, you gotta go to the neighbor, go all to the neighbor's house and demand money per pin. And it'd be like, I'll give you 10 cents per pin. And you go out and you bowl. It was a little kid, you don't understand bowling. So you come back and be like, this is how many pins I knocked down. And it'd be like, oh, you're gonna break my bank. That's a joke, but they could easily afford it. It was always like, this is the most important thing to me ever. Now it's just like, none of that mattered. I'm not even Scouts anymore.
And those assholes, they have a captive audience to get school kids to peddle their wares. And then they have the gall to have kids go out selling junk. Pins, candles. At least give us cool stuff to sell.
They should give all the kids crack rocks to go sell or something.
But this movie, it has lighting that was explicitly meant to evoke stuff like The Godfather with deep, dark shadows. It's stylized, but the movie overall is believable. You got a school with punk kids and a son-of-a-bitch faculty member. That's not too far-fetched to me.
You're right. It's not too far-fetched. Going back to the theme of the other two, of like, it's just high school, why is this so serious?
Even though this was your least favorite of the three, what's your favorite part of the movie?
It's hard to not say John Glover.
Which scene with John Glover?
The scene where he's asking Archie to involve the Vigils, but he refuses to say Vigils. He's just like, hey, I know you have influence, can you sell all this chocolate? And, Archie's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he slams the table, he's like, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
That was an ad-lib.
Beautiful ad-lib. It gives off the same vibes of, you owe me, and I'm making it feel like, you do this for me, I owe you.
It's backroom dealing. Even though it was a stylistic choice with the dark sets, I'd like to provide an in-universe reason for all that dark lighting. It's because the school's so cheap that they keep the lights off as much as possible.
For the most part, I love in-universe reasoning.
I mean, that checks out, doesn't it?
Yeah, it totally checks out.
I love the long takes in this. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't. Even though it was my least favorite of the three, I guess I was still so enthralled that I didn't notice long takes.
Because this was director Keith Gordon's first full-length feature, and previous to this, he had been an actor. He was the lead in John Carpenter's Christine. He was in Jaws 2. He must have taken notes on that Carpenter set because Chocolate War is flat in the best way possible. There are so many uninterrupted shots. I took a sample and counted single shots that lasted a minute 20.
Wow!
40 seconds. One shot was 2 minutes long. I listened to the commentary, and it was a small budget, $500,000, which in today's money is like $1.3 million. So they didn't have the time to do a ton of setups. When you have actors like John Glover, when we can just put the camera on them, let them do some great acting. And those long shots, there are a lot of them, and I think it works quite well because it doesn't feel like that crap where the director is being cute and putting in a bunch of camera moves and location transitions to impress the audience.
You shouldn't notice the camera at all.
What's your biggest criticism for the Chocolate War?
Ah, it's boring! It felt longer than it was. A lot of stuff going on.
It has a lot of talking.
Yeah, it has a lot of talking. Every scene has breathing room, and the breathing room to me felt like, get to the point. It took so long into the movie for me to finally realize, okay, I understand the politics of the situation. That might be why the movie's so long, so people can understand the politics. Like Inception. That movie had to be long so people could understand the whole concept of the Inception. You know what I mean?
Well, and even then, a lot of the rules in the Inception don't quite feel totally well thought out.
Yeah, you definitely need to see what's going on before you understand.
If you were to rate your own attention span, what do you think it is?
My attention span? Oh, God.
Well, for instance, when you're watching a movie, do you pause a lot? Do you check your phone?
I do check my phone. Back to the high school grading system. My attention span's probably an F-.
I'm not accusing you of anything, but if that's your criticism, which I hold in highest regard, then I want people to get a taste of what type of viewer is going to feel that way. And there is very little action in this movie. It is a lot of talking, so...
Let's call it highbrow. It's a highbrow movie.
Yeah, but I don't like that.
Oh, wow.
I don't
Okay.
like that term. Highbrow movie.
I tried, and I guess no. It's just a dummy person movie with too much talking.
I'll accept that, because this was my favorite of the three.
Oh.
I own this on Glorious Blu-ray. I like it so much.
Not Laserdisc?
If I could have found it on Laserdisc, I would have.
It definitely seems like a Laserdisc movie.
My big criticism. So this is an adaptation of a similarly titled novel. I don't feel I get a very good sense of why the students do what they do. We talked about what might be motivating Archie, Jerry. Like, why does Archie participate in the vigils? Why did Jerry say no to selling chocolates? There are hints in the movie, but I imagine the book goes into more detail, some of which I want in the film script. I think the only one we clearly understand the motives of is Brother Leon. Would you agree?
Yes, I would agree with that 100%.
Do you think that plays into it at all, why you weren't vibing with the movie?
Probably. I guess if Jerry wanted to screw over the vigils, he could have said yes in the first place to the chocolate selling. If he screwed over Brother Leon, only Brother Leon, the continual no keeps up, and I don't know why the vigils are even going along with Brother Leon.
It'll improve their power base, because it sounds like Brother Leon will let them have run of the school.
But Archie is not head vigil. The only reason he got his comeuppance in the end is because he wasn't head vigil. Adam Baldwin was. And you don't mess with a man named Jane.
Is that a Firefly reference?
Yes!
I knew it. You piece of crap.
Yeah, I immediately realized, I was like, it's another reference. What am I doing with my life?
You're doing the Lord's work, sir, because you're doing the screen companion.
Yes.
And then Archie only got his comeuppance through bad luck because of that whole contrivance with the little marbles. And he can't assign things to students unless he takes the risk of potentially having to do it himself. And so you got like 6 or 7 marbles. One of them is black. And he picked the black one, and that's why events played out the way they did. So that almost feels like a cop-out, because it's just left to fate that this happened.
I don't want to defend the situation, but they held the white one, because there was only one marble left in the box at that point, and that was the black one. How good he is at the marble picking game. He was going to pick the white one first, meaning he didn't have to fight. We call him the greaser. Which meant that there was only the black one left. He had to pick the black one. He was going to get beat up by Jerry. And Adam Baldwin's character even said, "This is what I put in." And I think that was the finishing blow anyway, right?
I didn't catch it where he rigged it. I thought they always had 7 marbles in there.
7? Oh, I thought there was only 2.
They say toward the beginning, I think in the first Vigils meeting, they set up that there's always a risk to the assigner, in this case Archie, and they have multiple white marbles, which means he's safe, and one black one, which means he'll have to do the crazy thing. So I can't imagine they would only put 2 marbles in the box, because then Archie's going to feel that there's only 2 marbles.
It's such a small box, though.
It is, but the marbles are also very small.
Okay, maybe you're right, which is weird.
Why's it gotta be weird that I'm right?
Out of spite, mostly.
That's what it always comes down to.
Yep.
That's like your chief emotion.
I would now be my mother's son without spite.
Does she ever listen to the show?
I don't think she even knows how to listen to the show.
Well, moving on to the last segment. TLDL, too long, didn't listen. I'm going to ask you some questions. Give me short answers. What do you think is more controversial? The affair with a student in election, the terror plot at a high school in Heathers, or the hazing in the Chocolate War?
It's definitely the student relations.
What's the better performance? Reese Witherspoon, Christian Slater, or John Glover? Don't be spiteful.
All things considered, it's Reese Witherspoon.
Okay, I accept that if that's your honest answer.
This is my honest, and I hate it. I hate it. No offense, Reese. Come on the show. I hate it.
Which movie do you think used absurdity the best?
I'm going to give it to Heathers.
Generally speaking, who's more relatable? Tracy the overachiever, Veronica the ex-cool girl, or Jerry the outcast?
That make me feel bad. Jerry the outcast.
I relate with him for most of it, but even his friend asks him later on in the movie after Jerry's been ostracized and everybody hates him, dude, why are you doing this? And the fact that Jerry has no answer makes me dislike Jerry.
He's in too deep, he's going for it. It's just like, alright, whatever.
Which movie had the closest representation of real high schoolers?
Election.
Who's more reprehensible? Mr. McAllister, the hippie teacher, and let's just say the whole faculty in Heathers, or Brother Leon?
Mr. McAllister.
Who do you think is the best villain? Tracy, JD, or Archie?
Wait, Tracy's a villain? JD.
Someone in the audience that listens to this show wants to triple feature the movies from this episode. In what order do you think they should be watched?
I'm gonna go with the order I watched them in. Chocolate Wars, Election, Heathers.
If you're feeling nostalgic, which movie is going to conjure up the most memories?
At my age, I'm so old. Election, for sure.
What's the worst motivator for doing bad things? A high school election, chasing popularity, or selling chocolates?
It's selling chocolates by a lot.
Any final words?
My favorite was Election. My second favorite was Heathers. My least favorite was Chocolate War.
Yeah, we are totally flipped order. Look at the silver lining here, folks. We both said Heathers was number 2.
Yes, let's shake hands on that.
That's the real winner in this episode.
It was Heathers. Alright.